Resources in Dallas. I also do consultant work for the Greater Dallas Hospitality Society. And it was at that organization that I started doing this presentation. And then Jerry found out I was doing it. He asked if I'd do one for Vital Media and also would I do the presentation here. So he asked if I was an expert in this field. I said that, yeah, if you'll accept my definition of expert, and that is a person that has been and asserts something under pressure. So I qualify as an expert that applies. Before I get started, I got to tell you a little bit about my presentation style. I don't like to sit in one place. I like to move around. For 36 years, I was the union buster for Xerox Corporation, and I've given presentations from Canada to Barbados, to the East Coast, to the Philippines, and I do this constantly. And one of the things I do to keep the audience attention, I ask questions. Well, I was in New York, I was in Jamaica, New York, and I was doing my little session, and I had a group of managers about the size of this room here. And one of the things we try to do is show the downsides to the union, to business, and to management ability to run their business. And one of them, obviously, in the United States anyway, is a lot of them are controlled by mafia. So I try to make a connection between, and we would fight the Teamsters this year, and I'm trying to make a connection between the mafia there in New York and the Teamsters. So I asked the question, anybody know who Bugsy Siegel is? And if you know who Bugsy Siegel was, you know, he's the guy who skimmed $3 million out of the Teamsters pension fund, took the money out to a little water oasis in between Los Angeles and the East Coast, built a place called Las Vegas. Well, it was a great concept, except they didn't come after he built it, and they wound up killing it. So I just asked the question, does anybody in here know who Bugsy Siegel is? And the manager said, right on the front row. Who's Bugsy Siegel? My uncle. So I try to remember who my audience is from that day forward, and it really was. It was really his uncle, and I was really nice to that man from that day forward. And I made sure he retired before I did. But I'm going to give you an overview today on the avian bird flu, give you a little history about it. We're going to take you back to 1918. Before we get there, let me tell you the background research we've done to get you here today. I have met with 4 medical doctors. I have met with the Federal Reserve Bank in Dallas. I have met with the team at Xerox Corporation, put their plan together. I have worked with Microsoft. They don't like to meet with people. They'll talk to you over the phone. And I also have read every piece of information that's on the website from the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control. Now, when you start putting your plan together, if you do decide to put your plan together, and it's going to be your decision after this presentation, hopefully I'll convince you do, but you just need to make that decision. You don't have to go read all that stuff for you. We've done it all for you. And in a little presentation that's on a CD that I will give to BareMetal, hopefully you'll get it. I think we're going to provide a copy to everyone for that. You'll have this presentation, you'll have letters, all the tracking stuff and everything. It'll all be done for you. So you'll need to make your own decision though based on what you see in the presentation. The experts say the following. 2 doctors, God, I can't believe it. When I first met with Ken, I thought he was an alarmist. Because we met with one doctor that said, we want you to come in and give everybody in our facility a shot, and we also want you to see if you can stockpile Tamiflu. Tamiflu is one of the antivirals that's proven to be effective against the influenza virus, and I believe it will also be effective against the bird flu. 2 other doctors say you're wasting your time, spend all your time worrying about West Nile virus. Well, the 2 doctors that got interested when they called up their supplier, the supplier said, let me tell you, you're number 300 on our list. We're not even going to put you on the waiting list because we can't get the antiviral ourselves. The other one called up to get the Tamiflu for us, and he said, we had 1,400 packages of Tamiflu last week. We're down to 30 now. And we got all 30 packages to stockpile that can let the doctor keep in the same place just for the employees at Vital Media. So that's how fast this stuff is going. So somebody knows something, and you'll find out the federal government of the United States is stockpiling this stuff because they're going to provide it to first responders, the police department, the fire department, the nurses, the doctor. You won't be able to get it. So we've already gone and got to jump on this thing and got it for our people, okay? We're going to jump right into it now to figure out how to make this thing work. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the background of the Avian Flu, and I'm going to take you back to 1918, believe it or not. Then we're going to talk about what is a pandemic. Anybody here know what a pandemic is? Give me the three elements that makes a pandemic. Anybody know? You read it, right? You've heard it. It's just been all over the news. It was in the news this morning. It was in the news yesterday. We're going to talk about a response plan. Then we're going to talk about infectious control plan, because right now, the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, says prevention is the best thing you can do. Okay? What is influenza? Influenza is a virus that infects the respiratory system. And you've heard influenza A, B, and C. What the world determines if it's A, B, or C. Simple. A is the most common. It affects anything. It has feet, hoofs, wings. It's a living animal. A B is an influenza virus that affects only humans. And a C is an influenza virus that only affects swine and humans. Again, the most common is the influenza A virus. And that's the one we're most worried about. And that's the one that's running around in the Far East right now. And it's almost made it down to the land down under. I think it stopped at New Guinea. The last human to be affected with it was somewhere in New Guinea. We're going to show you a map on that also. What is a pandemic? Three things have to happen for it to be a pandemic. First, it has to be the appearance or reemergence of a new influenza type A virus. Secondly, it must cause serious illness and death. We're going to show you some numbers in a moment that should just scare the heck out of you of how strong this one is versus what we've seen in the past. And last but not least, and this has only occurred one time, it must be easily transmitted from human to human. We've only found one case where it transmitted from human to human, and that was over in Vietnam, but it stopped at the second person. It didn't go any further. So it still is not considered a pandemic. What is avian bird flu? It's an influenza A virus that infects birds, swine, human, marines, and mammals. Current outbreak, and you're going to get these names. This is the number put in your memory bank. H5N1. And I'm going to explain to you what H and 5 and N1 is in a minute. So when you walk out of here, when you see it next time, you'll know what in the world we're talking about. Current outbreak of the H5N1 is highly contagious among birds and it is rapidly fatal. It doesn't take long for the demise of the birds, the swine, and the people who get it. They die rather quickly. And the H5N1 has been transmitted from birds to humans, and it has caused serious illness and death. Okay, a little history lesson for you here. Any of you watch the Discovery Channel, you probably watched the World War I series where it says more people were concerned about contracting the influenza virus on the troop transport ships going over into World War I than they were of dying on the battlefield. Because frankly, more people with that virus died from the virus than all the people killed in the wars of that century. That's a lot of people. 550,000 people in the United States died from the Spanish flu virus of 1918. And by the way, that was 2.5% of the people who contracted the disease died from it. I'm going to show you, again, a number in a moment that should startle you when you get those numbers together. 1950, and that was the first pandemic, the past 100 years, and everything we look at now from that point forward is based on the Spanish flu virus that occurred in 1918. Then in 1957, we had what's called reassortment, and I'll explain that to you in a moment. But where the Asian flu hit, some of you may have been around to remember that, and it caused 70,000 deaths in the United States. In 1968, we had something called Hong Kong flu. Anybody remember that one? It caused about 30,000 deaths in the United States. And in 1977, we had a mixture of the Asian flu and the Hong Kong flu. We got the thing called the Russian flu, which was not quite as powerful as the others. But again, everything goes back to the 1918, which was the worst we had ever seen. What is an influenza virus? An influenza virus is a virus that's made up of two proteins, hemoglobin and neuraminidase. Now, I'm not going to say that word again. It's going to be little H and an N from this point forward, because my tongue will only get around those once a day. So from this point forward, you see H and N, you know it's hemoglobin and neuraminidase. Now, if I got any good mathematicians in here, somebody tell me how many different strands we can come up with when you find out that there's 15 different H strands and 9 different N strands. So you ever wonder why does the Center for Disease Control come out every year and say, we're not sure that the virus is coming up, we've developed this year for the flu strand, is going to attack the strand that comes out? Because they really don't know. They go to Asia and try to figure out what's over there, but when it comes to the United States and it has what they call an antigen chip, we don't know exactly what virus is going to hit over here. So they guess at what's going to hit and develop the virus. And it could be any combination. The saving grace to us, though, is the next line. It says only H1, H2, H3 is easily transferred from human to human. So that cuts down the odds greatly for us, right? And the thing that's important about this one also is the antivirals that come out, they either attack the H protein or the N protein. And the only antiviral that they found that is effective against the bird flu attacks the H viral, the H protein, and that is Tamiflu. And that's the reason we stockpile Tamiflu, just in case this thing hits. Any questions about this slide? It's a busy slide, a lot of information on it. And you'll get a presentation on it. By the way, there is a talk track along the side that'll explain all this for you. Next one. This is an example of how reassortment occurs. What reassortment means, you go back to 1918, after that the virus just kind of went away, it went dormant. 1957, the seasonal flu came along, which made it easier to be transmitted from human to human. And reassortment means a person gets the avian flu of 1918 at the same time it gets the seasonal flu. They mix in the body and comes out as something different. And that's what reassortment means. And I'm going to jump over for the sake of time. And that's what we're worried about now with the avian bird flu. Because remember, it has to be an H1, H2, or H3 that's easily transmitted from human to human. This is an H5. So we don't know what's going to come out when that virus jumps over, comes over, and mixes with this seasonal flu that's coming up. So it'll be an H2N3. You can see the combination will be there. So the best guess is anybody's guess, but the vaccine is coming out, they think, will fit this seasonal flu, but we don't know what to do about the avian flu. The best advice I can give you today, before this weekend's over with, go get yourself a flu shot. Because if you don't get the flu, then the avian flu can't come in and the reassortment can't occur. So we're encouraging everybody to get themselves a flu shot. Where is it? This is a world map. It shows you where the avian flu has hit so far. The light areas is where it hit just wild birds. The darker area is where it hit wild birds and poultry. And the red dots is where it impacted the humans. Now, if you notice, it looks like the United States is insulated, right? There's a lot of water over there. But what's wrong with that picture? Somebody figure it out for me real quick.
Well, I can tell you straight away.
I'm sorry?
It's how the US present the world map with Europe right next to, well, Europe and the United States basically focus. But if Europe is actually adjacent to what would be Alaska. So
see that little spot right up there? The bird migration starts up there and comes down the west coast. And the wild bird migration has already started. And they have found 2 mutes ones in Michigan that were dead, and they tested them and they had H5N1 virus. So while the map's not updated, they have indeed detected that virus in the United States already. But you can see it is spreading. This is usually, the humans usually contacted by ingesting uncooked birds or poorly cooked birds, touching something that's got the virus on it and touching their nose or mouth. That's the way that they found it. Most people got it. Again, it has not easily transferred from human to human. Good catch, Jordan. So here's what the World Health Organization says about it. What will be the business impact when healthcare delivery and public health systems are overwhelmed? One obvious difference to everybody is susceptible, therefore without vaccine or antiviral protection, effective worker family, and workplace protection strategies and protocol becomes a necessity for survival. We're not talking about keeping a business right here. We're talking about survival. And again, when you see the numbers, I think you'll appreciate a little more. Currently, the state, whatever state you're in, you can go in, and by the way, you're not going to have to go look for these websites. I've downloaded every website you'll need by state, by federal government, whatever, and it's in your presentation. You just click on it, and it'll tell you all this information for your state. But in Texas, there's currently 60,000 acute illness beds. It's anticipated, and this is a very optimistic number, that 5 to 10 million people will get the disease, and 200 to 400,000 will require hospitalization. Now, you don't have to be a genius to figure out real quickly. You've got 3 people stacked on everybody in every bed. And also, guess what? The doctors are getting sick, the nurses are getting sick, the ambulance drivers are getting sick, police are getting sick. If this thing hits, and we haven't prepared for it, all of a sudden the infrastructure just collapses on us. So the numbers are a little bit overwhelming, and that's the reason you start thinking today about how do I prepare for this thing. At present, there's no easy transfer of human to human. We've said that. The stuff is spread through bird feces, bird swallow, secretion, oral ingestion, eye contact, contamination. Here's the one that concerns me most, obviously, not properly cooking the food and poorly washing your hands. Now, I tell you this. By the way, you'll get this when you read the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control. Stupid little question, right? Anybody ever take the safe driving course? One of the questions safe driving course is, did you know that 99% of all car train accidents occur at a railroad crossing? Well, if we know that, then why the hell do we have car train accidents? You know, we laugh about that, but if we think about it a little bit more, one of the easiest ways to get influenza virus, whether it be avian or seasonal flu, is because we don't wash our hands properly. And the question these doctors ask me is, do you know how long you need to wash your hands? You know how many car trains actually occur in a railroad crossing? But no, I don't wash my hands. What do you mean? He says, all doctors know this. All healthcare people know this. And it's proven fact that soap will kill the virus if you wash long enough. So here's a little recommendation for you. When you wash your hands, either say your ABCs or sing happy birthday. So the next time you're standing at a wash basin, the guy next to you is singing happy birthday, don't think he's totally nuts. The guy probably knows a little bit about the avian bird flu presentation. Now this is very important. The virus can last up to 4 days at 71, 72 degrees. It can last 30 days. I don't know what I did here. I'll try to get that out. 30 days at 32 degrees and indefinite at 0. Now, why is that important? Quickly. You shake someone's hand. You know how to get that out of there? No, don't. You know how to cursor. What is it? Cursor. I'm going to hit 2 buttons. But for sake of time, I want to keep going while I do it. If you shake, it moved it. No, thank you. You shake someone's hand, they've got the virus on their hand, the virus will last up to 5 minutes on your hand. And if you touch your mouth, your nose, your eyes, whatever, then you've got it because it gets into your lungs and goes from there. Or they go open a door. Now the virus is on the doorknob and it'll last up to 4 days on the doorknob. Or if you do something within 5 minutes, you go pick up a telephone. Or if you do something, ever go out to the checkout counter and see these neat little candy bowls, little bowls that have the goods on it? I was in New York City in 1994 in a union campaign, and there was an outbreak of hepatitis. And it was in a very small area of New York City, and they tracked it down that it came from 2 candy bowls sitting on the counter where the employees didn't wash their hands properly. They filled the things up, dug in, got the candy out, somebody dropped back, people come by and get it, bam, they got the disease. You don't think about it, but people go in, they just stick their hands in. They don't use a little spoon. So that is a very good incubator for this virus. So the next time you see one of those, just walk away from it. Don't go in there and get any of that candy. Because who knows where those hands have been in that candy bowl. Last but not least, the root of all evil, guess what? Guess what? 3 to 4 days. So again, we're going to handle money, we're going to touch doorknobs, we're going to answer the phone, we're going to do all these things. The key to it is wash your hands religiously, or use hand sanitizer. We're going to talk about the plan in a moment, where you should, most people will carry these little hand sanitizer in their hands, they'll squirt it on there every so often. Make sure it has 62% alcohol. If it doesn't have 62% alcohol, it's not effective. Anything over 62, it said it is effective. But this one is a huge one. Because, I mean, we do all kinds of things with money, don't we? Like put it in our mouth sometimes, our children put it in their mouth. So, very good carrier of the disease. Here we go. Why are we concerned about avian bird flu today? Currently, throughout the world that we know that's been reported, there have been 218 human cases reported. Of that, 124 of those human beings died within a very short period, which means 57% of the people that have contracted this disease so far have died from it. Now, what happened in 1918? What percent did I say got it? Anybody remember? 2.5%. We had 20 million deaths worldwide and 550 million deaths in the United States. So if we don't start planning now to control this thing at 57%, and I'll show you the numbers that's estimated in Dallas in a moment, it gets overwhelming real quick. And if we don't get an antiviral for it, and if we don't get smart about washing our hands and being initiating a lot of the hygiene that I'm going to recommend, you can find yourself in some hot water quick. And the other thing is, you're going to walk out here today paranoid, right? You're going to see people hit the door with their elbow. It's not a bad thing to practice during the influenza season. Risk of a pandemic, H5N1 meets 2 of the 3 conditions. New virus, no known immunity to it. It infects humans and has high mortality rates. We know that. However, there has been no easy transfer. This is the thing that concerns the World Health Organization. It's been over 40 years since the last pandemic, and it seems as though these things occur about every 40 years. So we're due one. The timing is right. While I cannot predict when a pandemic will happen, no vaccine currently available, so prevention is absolutely the key. Educate, and I want to just put this out, we'll talk about it again in a moment, not only your employees. Make sure, and by the way, it'll be in the package, you won't have to do any of this, just print it out and send it home to them. The employees' families know this as well, because it won't do you any good if you protect the employees, and then they go home and their families are sick. And the federal government has a little law that allows the Center for Disease Control to isolate or quarantine anyone who is considered to be affected with it or have been contaminated by it. So it won't do you any good if you can't get your workers to work. So take care of your family. Think of the families and their friends as well. So again, you won't have to do a lot of legwork on that. It'll be in the package. All you have to do is print it out and send it home to them. Preparedness, communication, prevention, containment, effective response. That's our next step. Written communication. Strongly recommend you have your own pandemic written plan. A lot of your customers, we've already had customers call up. What is your plan to handle a pandemic outbreak? And we've got the letter. You'll have it. If you want to just change our name, put your name on it, feel free to do so. By the way, security has given us approval to do that. It's sort of theirs. I developed this really for the hospitality industry in Dallas, but we'll say Bottle Media owns it, so they've given us the right to do that. You should have your own plan, though. In the package, our plan will be there. Again, all you have to do is change our name, put your name on it. It should have trigger points. What do you do when certain things happen? I'm going to show you in a moment the World Health Organization trigger points and the federal government trigger points that says this is what you should be doing at these steps of the outbreak. Provide ongoing communication, education, and prevention measures to all your employees and their family members. Can't overemphasize that one. You don't want to forget that one. Develop people charts or employee inventory to determine backup in case. Every company has what I call mission-critical jobs. Management could go away and the company continue to survive, probably improve a lot. If they were gone for a week or two, right? I can say that I'm a consultant, But and if I had enough nerve, I'd tell you my definition of consultant, but I can't do that today. But you need to put yourself an inventory together that says, who do I have? And if this person's out and they're mission critical, for example, if it's a dispatcher or a courier, those are pretty mission critical positions. Who can backfill? Who can take the job? Or who do I need to train? And that form is in the package. You just plug a name in, put them in, what training is needed, who's going to do it, what dates it's going to happen, so you don't forget it. If you don't write it down, it won't happen. Identify ways to support mission-critical jobs. For example, cross-train personnel. Use contract labor sources. And some of those contract labor organizations will allow you to identify people that maybe have worked for you before, or you can train them now. And if you need them, you can ask them to send those people in to you. At Xerox, we used a lot of contract people, and we would train them, and you know, they're called buffer strategy, where if you have to let people go, you let those people go first, and then business picks back up, you can bring them back. So a lot of contract agencies will work with you. If you've got a contract agency you work with, talk to them, see if they'll allow you to do that. Establish a vital office process, a virtual office process for employees. Can your dispatching be done from someone's home? Because the federal government quarantining your dispatcher, can you flip the switch and say, answer the phone at home? Vital Meeting's already got that set up. All we got to do is flip a switch, and the lady can sit at home, take all the calls without any problem. Should not miss a beat. Consider stockpiling antiviral medication. Now, I know we probably have some legal minds in here. The first thing come to your mind is, oh God, what's the legal implications of that? Well, it's none if you do it right. The way you do that is do the same thing we did. You got a medical doctor, get them to order you some. What we're going to do is pre-screen all our employees, and then if they get sick, calls the doctor, takes the vital signs of the patient, and if he diagnoses that patient as having influenza or the avian bird flu, we already have the Tamiflu packs stockpiled at his office. All you got to do is get it to them. Now, we can either send them, they go by and get it, probably wouldn't be able to travel. We send it to them by taxi, send it to them by courier. We can get it to them. But we don't have to wait and say, well, we can't get it. The drugstore is out, the doctors are out, and that's going to be the concern. Because remember, if this hits, two things. If it costs you a little bit of money to do it now, buy you one or two extra packages. Because when it hits, it's going to be so valuable, you can go down on the street and sell it and offset all your costs. I'm always thinking about ways to solution.
Can you get it without a prescription? Right.
No, you have to have a prescription.
So you have to get your doctor.
Get your doctor. He can order and stockpile it for you. You may have to pay him to stockpile it for you. And then when you write it out, then you can charge it back against your insurance company as a regular prescription. But at least it's sitting there for your company, not for someone else.
Can I just ask on that though, that if the doctor stockpiles it for you on your behalf, and then there was a pandemic, wouldn't the government have the authority to go and take it back off the doctor for their own purposes anyway?
No, but he doesn't know if he got it. Of course, they got authority to do anything in a pandemic, but if you don't know you got it, how's he going to get it?
So how do you put a process in place that ensures your access to that doctor's stockpile? Because if that stockpile ends up being $200 or $300 a box, and you pay $20 for it, what's to say he's going to give it to you?
You might sell it and have a holiday.
Well,
Can you store it yourself?
What we've done, and I can't answer that question. It's one of the risks you have. It's kind of like, I guess you could say, why do I have insurance on my car? The guy could take my money and run, not insure my car damage. But we had the people that buy me, they have a very close personal friend that is a doctor. They play golf with him, play cards with him, etc. He's done it. He's willing to do it. He's willing to try and get his vaccine to give each person shots. Maybe you have a personal friend, etc. I believe we can trust this individual. That's not going to happen. By the way, if you want to know the cost of Tamiflu comes in a pack of 10. And the very best we found, I think, was $80 a pack. So $80 is what your cost is going to be, and you got to stockpile. And I bought 4 of them for my own personal family.
How's it administered?
My family would be protected too. I just went ahead and did it. Because I spent a lot more than that on insurance for my car, and I haven't had to use that in 5 or 6 years. Okay? Families should be encouraged to stockpile 6 weeks of canned food, rice, canned goods, etc. You say, well, is this kind of ridiculous? No, it's not ridiculous. You should do that anyway because of hurricane season, all the different things that come our way. But start thinking about it now. Start when you go to the grocery store and buy extra can of goods. Bottled water is so important, or at least putting water in containers, because one of the things that transmits this disease is water. So make sure you have enough drinking water, food stuff, to last you at least 6 weeks. We'll show you in a moment how long the thing lasts. And what do you think one of the common places of contracting the disease is? Where large numbers of people gather. Grocery stores, movie houses, train stations, etc. So you want to stay away from those places when it happens. Educate employees on personal risk. This talks back to the personal hygiene. Develop frequently asked questions for employees and their family. We've done that for you. It's in the package. If you want to use it, fine. If you want to go develop your own, feel free to do so. Develop communications for timely delivery of information to employees and customers. Draft memo and all is included in the package for you. Feel free to use it. Create a crisis communications plan. What do we mean by that? Who is responsible for tracking the World Health Organization alerts? They come out every morning. I personally look at their website to see if any new information is on them. Who makes decisions on trigger point actions? The World Health Organization establishes the trigger point, and there are 6 of them, and we're at level 3 now. I'll show you in a moment. But who is responsible for implementing the action that goes with trigger point 3, trigger point 4, trigger point 5, etc.? When do you set up virtual offices? When do you say we're going to initiate? When we hear that it's now in the United States, or when it arrives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or when one of our employees gets sick? Somebody has to make these decisions. Don't wait until it happens before you try to make that decision. Who will be the interface with government agencies? Government agents may come up and say, this region of the city is isolated or quarantined, you can't drive in. And oh, by the way, all your employees are in there. Somebody's got to know where that is. And your customers may be in there. So somebody needs to be an interface for the government agencies because they have the authority to isolate or quarantine your vehicles, your equipment, your media, whatever they want, if they think it has the virus on it. Who is responsible for handling the customer? Customers are going to be very concerned. Of course, they're going to be fighting the same battle you're fighting. They're worried about the same kinds of things, but you're also going to have to answer the customer. We've already had customers call up and say, what is your strategy? We've just sent them a plan. And I have not heard anyone come back and question our plan so far. And who is responsible for handling customers' question issued on the H5 with the customer? Prevention, containment, develop and implement an infection control plan. By name listed employees are out sick, why they're out sick, how long were they out, and by the way, best of your knowledge, who did they come in contact with? Because once that person, if this person comes down with the flu, with the avian bird flu, the government's going to want to know who they came in contact with so they can either isolate or quarantine. They discovered that is the best way to shut down a pandemic, is through isolation and quarantining, even shutting down borders and shutting down airports, which is the last time they did it was 2003. Remember the SARS, S-A-R-S, virus 2003? The last time they used that was then, and it quickly shut that down before it became a huge problem. Emphasize employee personal hygiene. Again, the sample communication included in the package. Routinely disinfect your keyboards, telephone, doorknobs, desktops, and wash hands and soap with hand sanitizers often. Encourage social distancing. This is a new word that's going to be coming into the vocabulary. It's all over the World Health and the Center for Disease Control website. One of the key things, if you about 3 feet is considered a safe distance that the breath can't transfer the disease to you. There's some, I think it's, she was the Supreme, what was the singer's name was the Supreme, that's everybody calls so paranoid. She carries a ruler with her, and she makes the waiters and everything stay within distance of that ruler from her. That's how crazy she's gone. But social distance will be a word that comes into the vocabulary if this thing develops. And again, everyone says it's not if, it's when. And when it does, just remember, if you keep 3 feet away, that you won't be connected from someone that's contaminated with it. Identify facility ready changes supply. Here's critical for you. Start thinking now. Where in places should I put hand sanitizers, soaps, things that will help our employees just constantly remind them to clean their hands. We were walking down the ramp at the airport yesterday. Mom, what did we see just before we got on the airport? Southwest Airlines has installed hand sanitizers on every one of their ramps now. So I wouldn't recommend when I spend a lot of money to buy big sands. Buy these little bottles of hand sanitizer that Sam's. You can get about 10 of them for $3 or $4, and just give them to people, put them in places where it makes it very easy. You can't force them to do it, but if it's there, maybe they'll start using it. The other thing we recommend you do is start developing kits for your vans that's in your courier driver, anyone that travels around outside the office. Masks, rubber gloves. Anybody ever heard of a medication called airborne? I take it religiously. Every time I get ready to get on an airplane. Works, doesn't it? Interesting story behind it. The teacher got tired of getting sick from the cold and flu every year. So she come up with this thing called airborne to take so she wouldn't get sick. And all of a sudden it exploded as one of the best medicines, and it's proven to be effective. The way I found out about it is a very good friend of mine is a heart surgeon, and he was getting sick all the time, so he took it and hadn't had the flu since. And I've got one in my travel case with me now. I took one this morning because I know I'm going to get on a plane this afternoon. They're about $5 and it's about 20 little, it's like a seltzer. You just put it in a glass of water, drink it, and they're flavorful. They're over the counter and they work. And they're very cheap. Encourage you to put that in the little kit with the employee as well. And behind the scenes on this one, we have a 10-pack of Tamiflu locked up in a safe place at a doctor's office. You notice they don't tell you where the doctor's office is because this thing breaks no telling what people are allowed to do to get the Tamiflu. Effective response. Develop close working relationship with state and local authorities. Again, all their websites is on there. You can sign up for it so you can get alerts as they come out so you know exactly what's going on. Plan to operate with 50% or less of your staff. If you waited till tomorrow, or if the thing hit and you waited till today, and all of a sudden 50% of your staff doesn't show up, how are you going to run your business? Start planning now and identify those positions you absolutely don't have to have. You can just simply do without. And focus on those mission-critical functions that makes your company go. The things that make the customer want to pay the bill. Yes, sir.
For the work that you've done for the guys in Dallas, what's your assumption on the number of customers that want you to even show up?
The number that's in
Yeah,
this.
because if you staff for 50%, but 50% of your customers don't want you to even show up with your case, do you have an issue?
We don't know. The only thing is you plan for it, and if they do have, because they're probably, you're a good point, because the customer's probably going to be more interested in their own survival now.
They're going to be worried
than
about you
backing up their
affecting
tape.
them.
Yeah, because guess what? That tape is a great carrier of that germ. Remember what we talked about earlier? So we're going to plan for 50%, and if 50% is there, we don't have any call, fine. But if we do, we'll be able to handle up to what the capacity of 50% of the workforce will
Well,
have.
if you're thinking ahead, this can be one of those value-added services that you offer to your customers, by going in and raising the issue, and then maybe you can sell them the development of their own contingency plan, because obviously they're going to be affected at the same time you are, and you need to work with them to figure out what all that's going to be. So this may be a value-added service that you can think about.
Absolutely. And by the way, every company I've talked to, which is maybe Fortune 500 type company, has got a team dedicated to this. Now, I can't talk about the smaller company, can't afford a whole team, but maybe you got someone that says you are a coordinator or something. I'd recommend you have someone. And if you'd like for them to work with me, I'd be happy to. I'll leave you my number, my email address, and if I update these things, I'll send them to Jury, and you can send them to BareMetal, and we'll get it out to you as we go. Yes.
Okay, I have a question about providing your employees with the Tamiflu and get enough stuff for them. The problem that I see down the road is that employee is going to be worried about their family. So how are you going to take care of the employee, and they may not even show up because they're worried about their family. Can you provide Tamiflu for them too, or should you?
Yeah, we had to make a cost judgment on that one. It was a two-factor. One, availability and cost factor. We got 30 packs, or 24 packs, pardon me, and I think it was $1,800. And that was all we could get. So even if we wanted to get it for the family, we couldn't. But at least we got it for our employees. And
Now, that just may be an issue that needs to probably be addressed in the plan, because some employees are going to, I gotta have it for my family, and you're gonna be worried enough that it's a big problem.
Good point. Yep.
What's the shelf life of Tamiflu?
I'm sorry?
Shelf life. How long will it last?
About 2 years. About 2 years.
And how's it
Yeah.
administered?
5 years. Ours expired in 11. Okay. So 2 to 5 years.
How's it administered as well?
Does it what?
Administered.
Orally.
It's a tablet, is
You
it?
know, you ever seen contact? Contact?
Yeah.
Kind of a little pack like that. Not contact, but what I'm looking for?
This comes in a little blister package.
The little blister bag, just pop it out, take it with a glass of water once a day.
And what sort of environmentals does it have to be stored in?
Just
A
room
fridge,
temperature.
or-
Yeah, just room temperature. No,
Yeah.
it's just in a pack. We got it stored in room temperature condition. It survives 5 years at that. Yes, sir.
I was going to say that the biggest risk from my perspective is not so much a pandemic hitting and everybody dying. It's the panic that if one person gets.
That's what you got to deal with, the panic.
So the thing is that as an industry, we have to educate people as to how important our industry is. Because I could imagine that there'd be a lot of people, if a pandemic hit, would look at who was important in servicing their business. And for a lot of companies, we'd be the first to be cut. So irrespective of whether there was a real threat or not, we could find that our income was cut off because people saw that the delivery of tapes was not essential. But if we educate people to say, if you're running a hospital and the computer system goes down and that hospital's responsible for the healthcare system, their access to that backup tape is probably one of the most critical things of all. So from my perspective, the thing that's being missed here is educating customers how important we are rather than putting things in place to deal with it ourselves.
I totally disagree with you, but you're entitled to your opinion. Would you put that down and I'll put that in our operating plan, that what Gerard is saying?
What?
I disagree with you, by the way, wholeheartedly. And I have a right to do that. You have a right to your opinion. I think if you educate people and because right now there's no vaccine for it, there's no antiviral for it, the thing will help you once you get it.
Yes.
This will help. And the World Health Organization, everybody else is saying it's not gifted yet, it's winning yet.
If you
And
remember,
57% of the people are dying from it. Panic is going to occur.
It depends on what your focus is, whether it's business continuity
I don't think people
or...
are going to be too worried about your problem. I'm worried about saving lives. You're worried about a business. I come up here as the president. My whole focus is trying to save lives. That's what I'm focused on.
somewhere there's a happy medium.
So in the research that you did, speaking of panic, and I asked this question based on last year during RETA, when about half of 5 million people decided to leave at once. Does anybody, any of these organizations put out any estimates of, okay, in a panic situation, we expect a certain number of people to leave populated areas? Do you get anything like that?
I've seen nothing on that. I've seen nothing about it. Because I want to go to sit out in West Texas somewhere where there's not a lot of people and I can't get it. No.
Because we had, where you have planned to operate with less than 50% of your staffing levels, during Hurricane Rita, you couldn't get anywhere, first of all. There was no gas, people were leaving. It came down to basically Chris and I, we were the employees. And we had to just send it out to customers and say, sorry, we're basically shut down.
And they probably was very understanding. But I bet you focus mainly on your mission critical stuff. The stuff that you absolutely was critical to your corporation.
We focused on securing it, getting everything locked down, and that's all we could do.
But that was also
See that you
geographically isolated, so you could leave Houston and go somewhere.
Couldn't leave.
But,
Couldn't even get out.
but at least if you could get out, you could go somewhere. But what we're talking about here is where you're going to go. If a pandemic hits the United States, you're not going to be able to get in a car and drive
The interesting
somewhere.
thing about the experience we had last summer, and it was quite educational, is the sense of isolation that you had and that you couldn't escape. To me, that was the thing. I grew up on an island south of here where escape was the idea. The thing about when you evacuate the fourth largest city in the U.S. was you couldn't escape. There was no escape. You're sheltering in place, which is no different than what they're going to ask people to do here. Shelter in place. And then you start to see different responses from different companies, different organizations, and individuals. where people won't show up for work because their home isn't secure, regardless of their own livelihood. And you get this whole thing about the family, that's what comes first.
I remember I lived through polio here, and looking around, I see some snow on top of the mountain in here. Somebody else did too. So, you know what I'm talking about. And it didn't discriminate were you in a major city or a small city. My wife moved from a little town of 5,000 people. My wife got polio. She came down with it, and they thought she had the flu, and they misdiagnosed it. So no matter where you go, if this thing hits, and again, most of the experts saying it's not if, it's when. It's going to be everywhere because it's going to affect, remember, it's influenza A, and what is the host of influenza A? Anything with a hoof, wings, a bird can land and take a bird dropping on your, and you walk by with your hand and all of a sudden, bam, you got it. That's how it can be transferred. And birds don't worry about whether they're in Houston or whatever, they worry about where the nearest bug is right.
And the duration of this, from the things that I've seen, is that it lasts 6 months. So what you're talking about here is locking yourself down theoretically for 6 months. And how many people could not go to work for 6 months and come out of it being able to feed their families?
I want to hold that point because I want to show you what the effective duration of it is and when the peak period is. Yes.
You're saying not if but when. Is there a time frame here? Are we looking at a year, 2 years? Or no?
It could be, remember, it's called reassortment, and that we know we got the H5N1 in Asia, all those countries over there now. It'll be when the seasonal flu hits. And if a person has H5N1 and then the seasonal flu hit, then it reassorts and comes out different, like an H3H2, H2H2, N2, then you could have it. But there's no, that's the key. You're just sitting here with your hands tied, and I don't know when it's going to hit.
But because one of those is a seasonal aspect, the thing is it's a post-seasonal flu season. So something will come out of a post-flu season.
Well, what's come out? We're in flu season now. It starts October 15th. So we're in flu season now in Asia and Australia. When it's winter here, it's summer there, vice versa. They're coming out of their flu season. The Center for Disease Control already have doctors over there studying the influenza A virus that's over there, trying to determine if it does mix with the H5N1 virus, what comes out. But it's anybody's guess because you can see the different combinations that can come out. And that's the reason, the one thing that we know that has been proven to stop it is Tamiflu. And what Tamiflu does is the H, remember the H protein? It attaches to the cell, the lung, dissolves the cell, and then allows the N protein to open up the cell and spread to other cells. Tamiflu stops the H protein and it keeps it from spreading. And that's the way it does it. And even if you have the regular flu, you'll start feeling better immediately and it'll speed up your recovery period. And I got to move on because I think I'm probably going to run over time. Identify staff members, partners, other locations that can serve as backup. We had testimonials here on how important to trying to identify people. If you got large organizations, some are 1 or 2 person organizations, that's kind of hard to do. But if you have an organization big enough, you have people and other staff that can manage the mission critical function. Increase the number of employees who work at home by establishing virtual offices. Anybody in here ever had a virtual office at your work where somebody worked from home? At Xerox, that was a huge thing for us. We allowed that to happen, especially for women. Women like to look after their children, still be able to work, etc. Home phone lines installed for computers and phone support. Agree to pay for the phone lines of the employees to relieve that pressure from them. And again, the jury's already established it that says we can flip a switch and turn that on at 5 media. Consider partnering with other companies to support critical operations. For example, hotshot deliveries. If your couriers are all out sick, now that obviously becomes a security issue. The customer allows some third party to deliver their case. That's something you have to work out with your customers. If there's, back to Gerard's comment, a hospital that's down and needs a tape, and you have no one to get it there, will you allow a taxi or a hotshot courier service to deliver it for you? If so, that might be something you might want to think about putting in your plan. Implement communication process to broadcast emergency messages. Don't wait till it happens. There's all kinds of ways to broadcast, but as you probably have experienced in your own career, things happen, you say, well, why wasn't I informed? Well, we forgot. But have a plan in place that says, if this hits, Who's responsible for doing it? And is there a website you can go to look up? Or is there a phone message you can listen to? And it tell you, don't come to work today, come to work today. This is the status of work today. Keep your employees informed. It's very important. You should plan for shortages in food, water, gas, medical. The Center for Disease Control recommend if you have a serious illness, heart problem, high blood pressure, etc., try to keep a 60-day supply of that medication on hand at all times. That might be hard. I get all my medication through mail order, so I can get a 90-day supply. And I have a very good friend that I play golf with that happens to be my primary care physician, and he keeps me well stocked in my medicines. So if you happen to be fortunate enough to have a doctor in the business, he'll give you medicine that you can stockpile, give you a 60-day supply, plus what your normal daily requirements are. Dumb thing, don't think about, but remember when we had the gas shortage several years ago, I lived in Houston in 1974. Try to keep your gas tank 2/3 full. We talked about here, you couldn't get gas in most places. You don't think about those things until it's too late. So think about those. You pass by a gas station, stop, fill up your car. I know it's inconvenient, but guess what? It hits. The service station attendant might not be there. The tanker driver can't deliver the gas, etc. Everybody's going to be affected by it. Key is to start now. Don't wait. World Health Organization pandemic risk level. Remember I said there's 6 of them. We're at level 3 now, so when you put your plan together, don't even worry about 1 and 2. We already passed those. 3 says human infected with new flu subtype, no or limited human-to-human spread. We've only known one person that spread the disease to someone else, and that was sort of a fluke, we believe. So level 3 will react. 4, 5, and 6, we start moving to that. And when it comes to the continent, then we get to the next one. This is the one that's a little bit more important to me because it has both World Health Organization and the federal government trigger points. When you put your plan together, make sure whatever happens, we move to 4, what are you going to do? What do you do if we find out that a small cluster or limited human-to-human transfer starts occurring overseas? We know it's only a matter of time till it arrives here, so that becomes a trigger point for you to start implementing something else. When you get to trigger point 5, you have another series of things. And again, we're going to give you trigger points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that we've developed for Vital Media. You can use them, develop your own, but if you want to save yourself some time, we're already developed for you. Something's wrong. Okay. And World Health Organization. Somebody asked us what's your philosophy on that. That is our philosophy. We will implement a staggered deployment strategy based on trigger points. So what we talked about there a moment ago, the trigger points. We will maintain business continuity by developing appropriate levels of coordination. And as we heard here, that's to the point that we can't. That if it hits and everybody's out sick and even sick and the word panic has come up, people are scared to death to go to work, you may not be able to do anything. But at least use the one memo that's in the package that communicate with your customers. We will try to maintain business to the degree that the illness will provide us a good and the government will allow us to do that. Because the government may quarantine you or isolate you and not allow you to do that. And they have the right to do that. And in the Q&As, if you want to get inside the legal for the attorneys in here, you can read what code that allows the government to do that, to secure the borders and the airports and quarantine and isolate anybody that they want to. Usually that's a voluntary thing, though. Very rarely do they implement. Here's the thing on what we know that the Dallas County Health Community will provide us in advance. They said they will give us a 3-month advance notice before it hits. First wave will last about 60 days, peaking in 30 days. 70,000 people infected in Dallas County, 70,000 people hospitalized, 14,000 deaths, and work absence will run better than 50%. And the one that's important is one infected person will contaminate 4 others, and 2 of those people will become infected. So that's how they base their numbers to come up with that. And then, by the way, that's based on history.
So do the respective county health departments
Yes,
all do that?
and by the way, all of that is in the websites and everything you need in your package. Recommendation, get a flu shot, or they got this new thing called flu mist.
They can.
Yeah.
My wife sells flu nets, so I'll bring some info on that tomorrow.
Good, good. That's a little more expensive than the flu shot. I think the recommendation from the World Health Organization is give 2 of those a year instead of the 1 shot or 2 doses of this 6 weeks after the first and get a second one. People who are strongly recommended to get the shot now and get a pneumonia shot. People with poor health, weak immune system, 65 years of age, I just made it underneath that one. If you're 1 year, 0 to 1 year infant, obviously I'm not a medical doctor. Please talk to your doctor first. If you have any medical condition, don't get that based on mine. See what your doctor says. My doctor says don't ever get a flu shot before October 15th because you're wasting your money and your time. Flu season starts October 15th. It only lasts for 90 days. And that just barely gets you through to the end of the flu season. So the longer you go, the further it stretches you to the end of the flu season. So if you went down tomorrow and got it, just count out 90 days, and that's when the effectivity of that shot wears off. Everyone should get a flu shot after October 15th. Make decision issues will come up as we deal. Many decision issues will come up as we deal with the threat. Plan should be more on what and not how. What are you going to do? Not how you do it, but what are you going to do? And we're coming close to the end now. Plan must be flexible. Success mostly depends on educating your employees, personal hygiene, and social distance. There's that word again, right? 2 words. Social distance will be coming into the vocabulary. This comes on. Any questions? Thank you very much.
I was going to say, Ken, that Mike's wife's also got some good statistics on whether or not you have the flu shot to do with the pandemic, that you should look at or giving your staff the flu shot irrespective, because it pays for itself multiple times over in lost productivity.
Yeah, if you could stop someone being absent, you've already paid probably. I think it's $25 a shot or something like that. Your wife probably the expert on that one, but it's a very good point. If you get them, you eliminate some of the absence, but they then will affect the workforce. Probably more people will get sick. I get one every year. Interesting, one last point. This doctor who got her Tamiflu told me, I never get a flu shot. And then, of course, 30 seconds later, he said, oh, by the way, I get the flu every year. Thank y'all very much.